All right, everyone. Wow, that's sorry. Can you hear me now, huh? If you guys weren't asleep, or you were asleep, you'll be awake now. Uh, yeah. So ending the day, 4:30. Thanks for sticking around. Who I am? My name is Jeffery Kinsey. I work at Atheer, VP of Engineering. I can give you title or give you cards later on if you ever want to contact me. Let me talk a little bit about who we are as a company. We're I'd say, kind of new in the industry. Uh, we very much drink the Kool-Aid that everyone else is drinking, but our Kool-Aid is flavored with enterprise. We're not really in the consumer at all. We see that we definitely see that we think the future of computing is AR based. And the key thing about where we are right now, or where we think we are right now, we're at this cusp of adoption. Everyone who used to do computers back in the early 80s had a very specific need. Likewise, in the early 80s again with cell phones, people had a very specific need. We see people in enterprises that have a very specific need for AR, and that's the people we're kind of targeting. How we change the world as a company, the thing that's very unique to us is our interaction model. I am going to show you hardware, or you'll see hardware if you guys come up later. But really, what we do here is we're an interaction company. So how we change the world and how we interact with it. Our core competencies as a company is building neat interaction models for AR. Next. What is our glasses? So I'm specifically, as a developer talk, I'm talking about what it takes to essentially get your applications onto our device. Our AR glasses, as you can see there, is actually split into two different pieces. We have what we call the EPU. One thing that's very unique about us as a company is that since we're so focused on enterprise, we started asking people, actually a couple years ago after our dev kit, we said, hey, what do you guys want inside of a AR, enterprise AR-based solution? Everything you see here is kind of the feedback we got. I'll go into a little bit in details later on, but you have this external processing unit, what I call the EPU from here on out. And then we have the part that actually goes in your head, our head-mounted display. The two pieces together are actually bound by something we call AiR OS, and I'll go into all details on this. But these are kind of the three big pieces of as a developer, what you'd be interacting with. So I'm actually the son of a minister, and my dad used to give me speaking lessons, and he said, "Son, whatever you do, don't give away the key point of your talk at the beginning, because then no one's going to pay attention later on." But since at the end of the day, I want to give you the most key piece of information here right at the beginning. So if you tune out, fall asleep, walk out, go to the bathroom, whatever, you walk away with a key piece of information about developing on the AiR glasses. And what's that one thing you need to know about developing on the AiR glasses? It's the same as developing for any other Android phone or tablet. Now, I know a lot of other people have essentially Android-based AR systems, but the one thing that really differentiates us is our input model. And I'll go into details later on, but I kid you not that on our AR glasses, if you have a product that runs on a phone or tablet, it will run completely unmodified, 100% same application on our device. In fact, if you go down to our booth down in the Expo Center, you can see some standard applications like Google Maps running unmodified down there. So the next question I'm assuming you're all saying is like, can't be right. It's really got to be different. Nope. It's exactly the same with the AiR glasses, highlighting. And sometimes reality is better than what you get. Can't believe it's not butter. Can't believe that you can run your applications unmodified in AiR glasses. So let me go into this a little bit. What is our EPU? So like I said, we started out asking customers what they need out of an enterprise-based AR system. So we started with a processor that's powerful enough to do things like 3D visualization, fluid model dynamics, any type of high-end graphics processing. At least on a mobile processor, the K1 can do it. It's about the second most powerful GPU in the mobile market right now. The most powerful one is the NVIDIA K1 processor, which is its successor. But as it is, it's a very fast processing platform. And the next thing that someone asked for is a monster battery. So if you're going to have a lot of processing power, if you have a line of business application, that thing has to be able to run all day long. So by volume and weight, the majority of this thing right here is a battery. So there are obviously AiR systems that fit fully on your head. However, those things, if you try to run like an intensive application for a long period of time, you wouldn't make it through an 8-hour workday. And our customers are asking us for essentially the ability to last all day long. What else is in there? You got 2 gigabytes of RAM, 64 gigabytes of flash, Android 5. So the key thing about this platform is that this is a platform you can grow into rather than having to shrink your application. If you have, once again, if you have an application that already runs on a tablet or phone, you won't have to essentially start doing any optimizations to get it to run on our platform. It'll just run as is. So what's in the HMD? We have dual displays, obviously, left and right eye. It's a binocular see-through display. 720p HD displays. You got a depth sensor in there. The big-looking sensor right there in the front's a depth sensor. We have an RGB camera, microphone, and IMU. So pretty much the full sensor package you would expect essentially from a phone and tablet AiR system. That all sits inside of the HMD. Not on your hip, it sits up on your head. So the big question is, how is the input model the same? So when I said that you can take an Android tablet or phone application and run it unmodified on our AiR-based glasses, the big differentiation that we have as a company is our input model. And so how do we do that? We do something called touchscreen emulation. So our device has, like I said, a depth camera on top of it. What that depth camera does is through an algorithm, it creates a virtual touchscreen in front of you. So if you think about having a screen out here, if you think about like how you would interact with a typical touchscreen where you're clicking on icons and you're dragging stuff around the screen, the exact same type of experience you can do on our glasses using our touchscreen emulation. Now the really neat part about that is it uses the motion events just like any other Android-based system. So once again, like you don't have to modify your application at all in order for it to run, because it continues to use the exact same APIs that you've been using for all the years before. Like I said, standard applications already run, so things like Google Maps, no problem. We even play like Fruit Ninja and stuff like that on the device. Those all run great, completely unmodified. Does the camera work the same? One of the interesting things that we have when you start designing products for a specific environment, one of the issues you have is that the system may not have been designed for that. So specifically, Android doesn't like the fact that essentially you have a removable camera. Now, of course, we want to have essentially a removable plug here for stress relief. If someone's actually using it, trips, you know, we want the cable to be able to unplug without essentially ripping it or ripping off your face or something else, right? So one of the interesting problems we have is that there is no mechanism in Android to essentially say the camera has disconnected. Applications kind of freak out when that happens. So does the camera work the same? Absolutely. You can use the exact same APIs that you had before. But if the HMD is disconnected, you get black images. So once again, like you can run the standard camera application as the developers. If you're building an app for our system, you just have to be cognizant of the fact that if someone pulls out the plug, you're not going to get any data. But you're not going to have to freak out about it. Your app isn't going to crash or anything because there's still a camera there. Can I do head tracking through the IMU and the HMD? Absolutely. Even though we have the EPU down your hip, the IMU is actually in your head, and our AiR OS plumbs the IMU and the HMD into the Android operating system just through the standard APIs that you'd be using normally. So once again, you're going to hear this kind of continuing theme here. If your application runs on a tablet phone, it works fine here, even though essentially the hardware is very different. Do I need to use custom development tools? No, you do not. Everything that you're typically used to, ADB, Gradle, Android Studio, all those applications work just fine. You don't have to make any changes to the way you develop your product. Even if it's an old rusty tool like Eclipse. Commonly asked questions. Is there an API for getting the depth image directly? The answer is no. There it is. The answer is no. Is there an API for getting the raw gestures? The answer is no. Will the last two answers ever be yes? Probably. Our goal and our focus as a product and as a company is to make something that's very easy for developers to port their applications onto our system. And so instead of having a new SDK to essentially be used on our platform, I can tell developers, hey, go to developer.android.com. That has everything you need to know in order to develop for our glasses, because we do everything standard. There are some custom scenarios that people might need the depth image for. I was down in the expo just recently, and someone came to me, and I'm like, wow, that's a really interesting scenario. We should talk about that, right? So if you want depth images, let me know. That's something that we could add in the future. But right now, until there's a lot of customer need, the answer is still no. If I can run a phone or tablet application on the AiR glasses, is there anything I need to do to port my application? I think you guys all know the answer to that. No. But you'll want to make some changes anyway. Obviously, like running a standard tablet application on a device like this, these screens are extremely bright. They're meant to be used outside in the daylight. So if you have it on full brightness with a full screen application, say a tablet application like Google Maps, you're going to have a hard time seeing anything because that's going to block out your view. So some of the changes you want to make, definitely use less persistent on-screen data. You know, the markets we go after, enterprise-based markets, these people are actually doing things with their hand. They're using the product in real-world environments. So the more things you have on the screen, the harder it is for them to see what they're trying to do in their work. Keep the center of the screen as clear as possible. You know, put all the information off to the sides or on the bottom so that people can still see like through the displays. Use immersive head tracking to expose more information. If you guys haven't been to our booth yet, down in our booth we have a demo of a medical device. A medical device that tracks heart rate and blood pressure and all these other vitals that people might actually use in a operating room environment. And the immersive AiR type of scenarios where I get multiple screens by looking left, right. So my primary display is mostly clear, but if you need more information, you can look to the left or right. Something that's very kind of natural for how we interact anyway, that if I need to look at other things to see information, I look to the side. Keep the on-screen information simple. So if you look at essentially a standard tablet application, because you have such high precision, you typically fill up the display with a lot of different information. So when you're essentially doing a AiR-based application, you want to simplify that as much as you can. Typically, when people do these applications, we have a lot of customers that we're working with now. They want to have a very simple experience. You know, complex steps are broken down into very simple steps for them to go through. So keep the on-screen information simple. What's Atheer going to do next for developers? That's a great question. So this is the part where I have a little bit of audience participation. Luckily, I was concerned there's only going to be one of you out here, so it'd be a one-on-one type of thing. But since there's more of you, can I get a volunteer? Someone in the crowd? Anyone? Come on. Okay, there you go. Thank you, sir. What's your name? Spencer. Thank you. Where are you from, Spencer? Canada. Oh, Canada. Oh, congratulations. My wife's from Canada. So you and I are going to play not play a game. You and I are going to do a little exercise here. Oh, you can stand right there. That's perfect. You and I are going to do a little exercise here. We're going to try to do a little bit of nonverbal communication between us. So I want you to ask me a yes or no question. Pick anything, but remember that there's other people in the room. So pick any yes or no question. I don't even know the I don't know the answer to that question. Pick something that's a little bit simpler. Do I drink coffee? Okay, great. That's a perfect question. So I'm going to answer your question, Spencer, using a nonverbal form of communication, and let's see if we can get in cahoots here. You ready? Uh-oh, he's from Canada. No? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay, sorry. Yeah, maybe that's not a thing in Canada. Thank you, Spencer. Typically, a thumbs down means no. Oh, I see. Yeah. So, well, from someone from Canada. Thank you. Okay, that's why there's a strange look. I'm actually spent 10 years in Seattle too. So, the land of Starbucks, and I never learned to drink coffee. So, one of the things that we're doing next with our system is something called poses. So, as a computer system asks you information, it's very natural for us to use hand-based gestures to give input to the system. So you can think of a dialog box asking you, Jeffrey, do you drink coffee? And for me to answer yes or no, it's as simple as me doing a thumbs up or a thumbs down, telling the computer system, yes, I drink coffee, or no, I don't drink coffee. So over the next time here, we're going to have an SDK coming out for developers. This will be kind of the first time that we do something that's kind of non-standard Android. It's going to be a very simple APK for you guys, like if you want to register for essentially a pose that says thumbs up, or a pose that says thumbs down, or a pose that says left, right, next, previous type of gesture interaction. You'll be able to essentially get that API from us, and we'll call you whenever we recognize it. Makes it very simple for you to create complex interactions in AiR. These poses are actually demoable right now at our booth. So if you'd like to try out poses right now, you can go down there and try them out and see kind of a hint of what's coming. It's you hear some snickering behind you. These two gentlemen work for me. The one gentleman in front here actually worked for On The Go, and he actually runs my algorithm team. So there's a lot of pieces that have been integrated into the system from our On The Go acquisition. I think we haven't done we haven't done a full integration of a lot of those pieces yet. There's a lot more exciting stuff that's coming from that acquisition later on. Okay, what's next? Obviously, go get yourself a pair of Atheer AiR glasses. They're very easy to develop for. They're going to be very easy to essentially distribute to your customers. They're going on sale very soon, so we're going to start shipping them out very soon. So definitely go get a pair of glasses. Keep making Android applications. The great thing about our glasses is that we do run the applications unmodified. So any enterprise applications that exist out there already, like AiR RAID or Google Maps or Skype, anything that's already a line of business application, we can run that unmodified. So even if you don't own a pair of our glasses, keep making Android applications. We're going to be able to run them no problem. Come see us at booth number 8. We actually, if you register for a demo, we're giving out a free pair of glasses. That's a pretty high value, probably one of the biggest giveaways we got going on out here. Right now, the Best of Show Augie Awards are going on. I'd love to have your vote for us for Best of Show. I believe we're quite a ways in the lead right now, so let's push us over the edge. So at this point, any questions about the product, about our company? Yes, ma'am. Great question. So our product portfolio is actually broken into 2 different pieces. So everything I showed here was based on our hardware from a developer standpoint. We have another branch of our company who builds the software suite that goes along with it. So about 1.5 years ago, we started building development kits, and we started going out to customers, and they're like, hey, neat hardware, what do I do with it, right? And so I'd say we're kind of battle tested in that regard. We've been talking to very large industries, and they've been telling us what they want out of the product, right? Not only out of how do we build our hardware and how we do the interaction model, but also what type of functionality that they need on top of that. So Atheer not only develops this hardware, but we also have another product called the AiR Suite. So the AiR Suite essentially boils down to 2 very critical components for enterprise-based AiR, which is workflows and remote communication. So it allows you, using a web-based interface very similar to Visio, like a workflow-based interface, create very complex workflows that you then can push to glasses and have the person go through that. If at any point during that stage they get stuck, they can call for help, and someone, a journeyman back in the remote office can help them through that step. So yes, we have 2 different pieces of the business. Together we create kind of a total solution as we go out to our customers. We create a total solution saying, here's the hardware and here's the management suite that goes along with it. One of the things that it's a great time to be in the enterprise AiR market right now, just because there's going to be so much growth that right now we don't really have to be worried about being competitive with people. So our AiR Suite not only runs on our glasses, but it also runs on a lot of our competitor glasses as well, things like Vuzix and Epson and Recon. So if you come to us as an enterprise customer and say, we really like your glasses, but we need something different for a different scenario, our AiR suite will run on both of those. Yeah, so if you heard the question was, does the AiR suite integrate with other databases? So we've actually had custom integrations. One of the things that we found with talking to enterprises, like everyone has done something different a little, in their enterprises, right? And we actually have something called the 5 stages of AiR acceptance. And the 5th stage is the integration. So we're starting to find that there is ways for us to essentially create generic integration points with, say, like, logistics facilities or manufacturing facilities. But when it really comes down to it, there's a lot of custom work that has to be done there. Someone creating like a adaption layer from their database, whether it's SQL or SQL or something like that, going into essentially our database for holding the workflows. We've actually started doing that with some of our customers. Like they've come to us and they're under contract with us to actually build out that full scenario. And a lot of those scenarios have led into both the product design, like the algorithm design, the interaction models, and the product design for the AiR suite. Any other questions? Oh, from Canada.
So maybe my poorly worded question about referencing was to do with tracking systems to get position and pose, position and rotation of the headset, and feeding that into the headset.
So you're talking about like the SLAM type of model, or more like head tracking type of thing?
More of an absolute system, but the same kind of idea that we want to put a position into the headset and use that to position augmented content based off of it.
Right. So right now, that's not something that we're currently doing as like our own intellectual property. Right now, our intellectual property is based on interaction models, the type of the virtual touchscreen. However, because we are an open Android system, any of the SDKs, especially if you've been sitting in this developer talk, any of the SDKs you've seen here so far should, and in most cases we've tested, do run on our devices. So if you have something that's doing relative head tracking or position or absolute position or SLAM, any of those types of applications should run just fine when you port that application to our system. I think I saw another hand back there.
Do you support any of the Google services like Google Cloud Messaging or Drive APIs?
So one of the issues with that, it really depends on the services. There's some services that Google will give to you as just an open API, like a RESTful API. Those work fine in our system, just like they'd work anywhere else in the world. There's a class of services, especially on Android, you think on your phone or tablet, that are under the GMS control. We are not a GMS device. Google doesn't yet have a certification process for doing AR or VR-based glasses as of yet. So, like for example, the Play Store, we can't ship with the Play Store because that's a Google certification that they just don't give out to glasses yet. So it really depends on the service whether or not it's available. If the service does have an open API, open RESTful API, it'll work just fine. In fact, we've created our stress test that we use to validate our hardware for long-term runs is doing YouTube-based playback, and that runs just fine.
So if you don't support the Play services, then how do I distribute my app? Do you guys have your own store?
We don't have our own store right now. We have our own like sideloader application or sideloader application. The reason we do that is that for the most part, our customers that we're going after, they're line of business devices. So the people that actually use the device and the people that would provision the device are 2 different people. So right now we haven't had a need to essentially create a distribution model on the glasses themselves because that's not the way that they'd actually be distributed to the people using the devices. So yeah, like we have a side loading application on Windows that you essentially if you have all of your APKs, system updates, stuff like that, you select all the devices that you have plugged in. You say, I want all these devices, all these applications to be loaded down at once. Now, one of the benefits that we have of having a very compatible Android system is that any of the management software that exists out there right now, there's a lot of enterprise-based management softwares like AiR and stuff like that. Those things will just run just fine on our device. So as an enterprise, you could go get one of those, load one of those images onto the device, and then remotely manage all of your devices through those enterprise-based applications. Yes?
Can you do background? You have as the device manufacturer, you have to provide that.
No, there's a setting inside of the device to essentially say allow quote unquote safe stores or unsafe stores or whatever, which then doesn't require the code signing key. So yeah, like it's possible to do that now. Any other questions? Well, enjoy the rest of your time here at AWA. I do appreciate you sticking around to the end of the day. I didn't want to talk to the wall today. So thank you very much for sticking around, and enjoy the rest of your day.